April 9th, and it's 5:19, and we're starting the Board of Health meeting. Let's start with attendance.
Robert Kenton.
Cindy, I'm going to go to you next. Here. Nancy? Robert? Nancy, you have to unmute. Here. Okay. And then, and our manager's going to be joining us shortly. Okay. So with that said, we do have a quorum. And we went total. And just going to do the public address. This is the time when the public may address the Board of Health and any item listed on the meeting agenda or any issue or matter of the town. If you intend to addressing the board at this time, we ask that you do the following. Please identify yourself, your name, your address, and be representing the public address to the board. Segment will last no longer than 30 minutes. Each individual will be given 3 minutes. Please make your comments concise and try not to repeat statements made by others. So we're looking for new comments. If you already did something in the past, please, no. Please address your comments to the board chair. We have 2 co-chairs. We have Nancy Hopper on the line on Zoom, and we have Rob Dinsburg here. If anyone wishes to reconsider when the board discusses, if anyone wishes to be recognized when the board discusses an agenda item, please make the request at this time. The board chair may grant this request. Address comments to the board chair and be concise. We are at the meeting in person and make this meeting available via Zoom for the convenience of the public. Since we are meeting in person, we will not be responsible for any technical difficulties. So if you'd like to be sure of participating, please attend in person. Let's pause. Would anybody like to address the board? Can you say your name again?
Pete Person, 30 Florence Street.
I saw another hand up.
Hi, Lisa Pugh, 140 Raymond Drive. And if I could just be recognized when we get to the Berkshire Concrete agenda.
We're going to talk about it now.
Oh, okay.
You know, if there's anything you want to say, we're asking you to say it now.
Okay.
Okay. It's 140, Lisa, is it 140?
140, yes.
And I saw another hand back there.
Good evening, Dave Q, 140 Raymond Drive. I would like to speak with regards to the Berkshire concrete issue, and once the item comes up, I may want to ask clarifying questions once conversation is made within this board.
Is that okay, Mark? Sure. Okay. Just chill. Okay. And then,
Richard Holt, 164 Greenwich Drive. Again, recognise the Berkshire concrete piece, because I think it would be helpful to hear what the board has to say before I ask or make any clarifying questions or statements.
anybody else? Yes,
9 Griffin, 33 Florence Street. I'll only reserve my right to speak in the event there's a subject matter that you want to talk on. Okay?
yes.
Joanne Moore, 59 Tower Road.
Is that Powell, P-O-W?
Tower, T as in Towers.
I got your first name, I didn't get your last name.
Warren, W-A-R-R-E-N,
And you would like to speak on?
the Berkshire Concrete.
Okay, is there anybody else? Okay, thanks. I see Amanda Staples is on with us. Thank you, Amanda, for joining us. Just can you confirm that you're still there?
I am here.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Okay, so we're gonna take public comments. So, key person, please.
Yeah, just making sure my phone is muted.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So Pete Person, 3rd Florence Street. I just have a comment. I saw the letter that you sent, asking ordering Berkshire Concrete to update the area. We haven't seen anything down there. Something to prevent the dust from blowing on the windy days, whether it's watering or covering, whatever it is they have to do. We saw your order on that. My question is, what's preventing Patrica from doing that? Are they just ignoring that order, or are they, what tooth does it have in order? I mean, short term, we want the dust to stop blowing throughout the neighborhoods. And what can be done? Because obviously they're not taking this very seriously. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Pugh?
Might be answered with things that
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Some of these,
You had a very loud voice, and I think I was being heard, but I want to make sure
Trying
that
to
you
be quiet tonight.
and you might be able to answer some of these once you guys present your tonight. We're wondering about the response from Berkshire Heinrich's attorney. That is even dated March 26th to the cease and desist server. He did not address that order directly. They were ordered to immediately cease and desist, creating a public nuisance from sand and dust originating on his property. Mr. Ian stated that they did not agree, but that they are working on a mitigation plan. That response felt patronizing and irrelevant to the specific order. The order demanded that they cease and desist us leaving the property immediately. They found a violation law since March 12th, and we're going to see that. We know that the mitigation plan is something that they're working on, something that should have been in place in 2022 before they started digging. But that is something that they have been told they need to have. That's why they reapplied for a special permit. It's not relevant to the cease and desist order. So for us to give the town to get an order, is it going to be backed up with actual consequences, is what we as the neighborhood are wondering. Because we feel that not having consequences is sending a message that the town's request can be disregarded as unserious. We've been dealing with this stuff daily. We've been asking for it to stop since we found out about this issue and discovered why we were having this issue back in January. And we want to know why it hasn't stopped yet. Here we are in April. They've been in violation of the overall permit since they began in 2022. There has been no attempted mitigation, and there's been no oversight by the town to make sure any mitigation is happening. The town has made some moves to address the issue, but at this point, we're feeling performative. What consequences do we intend to levy on Berkshire Concrete? And if you get us on the steps in that what's going to happen that we to March 12th when we receive the order. And then also we are wondering about the results from the DEP. Those results probably coming. So I'm so thinking about the cost.
Those are both we discussed.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Dave? You?
I'm gonna wait. Did you just call me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait. I'm not gonna say anything further than what's already been said.
Okay.
But I may want to speak to the topic comes up with the board. If there's time for people to speak that.
Yes. So then you'll address the
Yes.
co-chairs. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Richard? Yeah. Richard Hall, right?
Yep.
Thank you.
Richard Hall, 164 Greenridge Drive. Just a couple of things, not to repeat what was said. But one of the cease and desist order that came from Brian stated that I must inform you all urban removal operations shall cease and desist. So all Brian was asking in his was to stop actual digging. He didn't say he could not do anything, and there seems to be some confusion with their lawyers, but that cease and desist is causing confusion with yours, which says that they have to do something now. But the second point I want to make is that they did do a mitigation plan, which they gave to the planning board. And part of that said that they could cover any on consent. So my suggestion would be that there needs to be some liaison between this board and I think the planning board, so that everyone's on the same page, so that Berkshire Concrete isn't confused on what needs to be done, because immediately they need to cover up the sand so it doesn't go into the neighbourhood. That was my major comments now, but once I hear a little bit more about the PEP report and that, I may have some more things to say. The other point I will make is that on Wednesday, December the 7th, 2022, as part of the planning board minutes, there was also a dust complaint from the property owners on Park Ave and High Street. And as part of the special permit application, and in deliberations, I'll quote, "The operation has been operating in good faith for over 30 years and no violation of conditions." So this isn't new dust issue. This has been going on for years. And at the moment, we're just talking about one part of the operation and not the rest of the operation, which is causing dust when the wind blows in a different direction to other parts, other neighbourhoods. So as I said, I'll wait for some of the other information to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ryan?
You want to see it?
The only thing that I would ask is whether or not the town has, basically your jurisdiction, done anything to identify a firm that the town intended to hire to review remediation plans that were submitted by the trees. That was my first question. My next question may come after you make comments about what you've accomplished.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. I'm gonna skip diseases. Is it?
I think Joanne's one.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Joanne. Yes.
I just wanted to say we're new to this project and this issue. We live on Power Road, which I think is a little further than some of the people are far from the site. And our deck, pool, all of our furniture is covered in this dirt. And we have small grandchildren that we would like to be able to come over to our house to swim in the pool. And right now, we don't feel it's safe for them to be outside with all of this all over our deck and all over our pool. So we just wanted to address it at our house.
Thank you. Should we move just right to Berkshire Concrete?
I want to follow the agenda.
Okay. Okay. Anonymous complaints. Okay, so as far as disease updates.
Are we skipping over the meeting that was approved?
Yeah, the meeting minutes from last month. I still have, I'm gonna put those on hold because I actually wasn't able to have the time to listen to it. But what I want to mention is the meeting minutes from, let's see, it's February 12th. I still had some concerns with, where we asked for them to be corrected, where it said, Mr. Venture stated that Berkshire Concrete Associate Manager Trevor Leo, that the sand contains silica. And I think that's where we ended the statement. I noticed that those weren't corrected.
From the February 12th meeting?
Yes, February 12th, so that still needs to be corrected. We, March 12th, I'm gonna let those just stay maybe on for next month. Unless anybody, did anybody want to review, have any comments about March 12th?
I do add this, it says Berkshire Concrete has to cease and desist order on structural operations. And it says, and on April 9th, they have to appear here. Yes, that's great.
Yeah. I'm sorry, that was you, Nancy?
Yes, yes.
You said that that's,
It's Berkshire Concrete has to cease and desist order on their structural operations. And on April 9th, they have to appear here. And it was like, if they wanted to appeal it, then they would be at this meeting.
I agree with you, Nancy, actually, I picked that one up too. I did pick that up. And that, I saw that as an error too. I also saw that, 727, 729 Old Windsor Road, we said that that was at the AGO, the AGO's office, and 27 Mountainview was at the AGO's office. And I believe 52, 54 Craven said that that was taken care of and removed. Also, I think I picked up something with the diseases regarding the flu. That the CDC and both the Massachusetts Department of Health have that very high. So I really, there's a couple of things on there that I picked up. Did anybody else pick up anything else?
Other than, didn't have to appear.
Right, that was a hearing, right, okay. That's what I picked up, and that's what stopped me and said, hey, hold on this, I need to listen to the whole thing.
Okay.
And I don't have the 2 hours to, we have 2 hours to do that, so that's why I want to just put that as pending right now. Just- And as far as disease updates go, we have for the ED, COVID-19, influenza, and RSV are all lower baseline as 329. The wastewater, COVID, for Pittsfield trends as of April 3rd was low. Flu for the CDC and both Massachusetts Department of Health was moderate in Western Mass. As far as the drought, as of 4-1, mild drought. As an air quality, as 1.9 was 35 good, and other diseases from 312 to 1.9. Norovirus was 1 confirmed, influenza was 8 confirmed, Lyme disease was 2 suspected, coronavirus 1, and Yosemite is 1 probable, for a total of 13. Moving down the agenda, new business, anonymous complaints. What I want to do is adopt a form, which I sent to everybody about complaint forms. And I find sometimes the story changes. So either we receive an email or we receive a complaint form. I want to request that process from the board. So could we have a vote on that, or
Could you explain a little bit more about what's the difference between what we do now and what you want?
what we do now? The state has what you do now. You can take a verbal complaint. You can take somebody can call over the phone. They can give you a verbal complaint. They come into the office. But what we find is sometimes it changes, or you may hear a piece of it. So that's why I want something in writing. As far as I've had people say, well, rodents, and then sometimes if you're rats, there's a difference there.
Okay.
Well, 1 car, 2 cars, or they're running a business. No, they're not running a business. The story sometimes changes. So I want to make sure that we have something, the original complaint, something in writing, either by email or this form completed.
So you'll accept an email explaining the problem?
Yeah.
Instead of doing the form and emailing it?
Either one. Or we just keep it. I find sometimes with, we can send them the email, we can send them the form.
I feel like if we're going to do the form, then we should be uniform. And
Okay.
the form, whether you send an email or not, that way you can't be like, oh, I sent the email. Like, if somebody sends an email complaining, just send them the form back and suggest that they fill out the form and submit it. That would be my suggestion. If you want to use a form, use it uniformly in all situations.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. Anybody else have any comments? Cindy, Nancy, Amanda?
No, the form looks good.
I would agree, it'll help us be consistent, more consistent.
Well, make a motion to adopt a policy where we use the form as the metric for any complaints that are made to the board, or to the department, I should say.
I second the motion.
Cindy and Amanda, can I have a roll call on that, because we're dealing with, Zoom?
I'm in favor. It's a big. Amanda, yeah.
Great. Thank you. Okay,
You don't want to ask Nancy?
what?
You don't want to ask Nancy?
I thought Nancy said yes. Nancy,
I second the motion.
and Robin, you first, right? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Okay. Ray Roberts, I don't think we have anybody here for that, but that's where we have to come through with the special permit, and we have to make comments on the special permit.
So I read through all Mr. Roberts' stuff, and I found that there's a lot of things that were outside of our purview about what time the business was operating, the expansion of the time that the business is allowed to operate. Those are all conditions of the special permit of the planning board. And there was just a litany of complaints about things that have happened over the years that I felt like, other than potential noise and or some instances where dust was coming onto the property of the shops, they were things that were very old and not within our purview. I didn't see a lot of the things that they were complaining about being things that we have sway over. I don't know how everybody else felt about the materials he submitted and that the shop submitted.
Anybody else have any discussion on that? Nancy, Cindy, Amanda?
I think that we have to go like from like this time forward with complaints so that we can address them. If it's within our purview to do so, if it's noise or dust.
And I didn't see any reason to expand, if they want to comment on this special permit of the operating hours, to expand beyond what the DEP permits.
I think they already have DEP of certain hours on part of the ABC. And then the other is already from, I think it's 7 to 6, Monday through Friday, and certain hours on Saturday until 2 o'clock.
So,
Right, 8 to 2 on Saturday. That is within the town's right, and that's already within, what he's trying to do is expand the part that the town does, not what the DEP did. DEP is I think whatever the time is to 4:30 is the standard thing. That's set. Does anybody else have any thoughts? The other thing was the piles were supposed to be moving from 20 to 30 feet. And I think the other changes was that he's looking to do a special permit every 3 years versus every year. And if he has 3 violations from the enforcement person, and it goes through an appeal process. There was something about that.
wouldn't that be the planning board or the
That
select
would
board
be the
that
planning board.
decide?
That would be the planning boards. That would be the planning boards. Is there any recommendation from the Board of Health to the planning board regarding that whole process and that special permit?
I didn't see.
I think once a year would be better, better than every 3 years.
So keep it as it is.
Yes.
And Robbie said something about the hours.
Yeah, I don't see any need from what was presented to change anything. I mean, if they want us to comment on something we don't have control over, I didn't see any reason to change the permit. But that's up to the permit board if they want to do that. The planning board, if they want to expand the hours, allow them to build higher piles. That's in their purview.
So do we have any So what's the recommendation from the Board of Health to the planning board for the special permit for Red Roberts? That's what I want to make sure we have clear. I know we're making comments here.
I'm just having a hard time understanding. They want us to make recommendations about things that we don't, I feel, have a say in. For instance, how the punishment scheme would work if he commits violations, or how often he can apply for a special permit.
They just want any kind of comment the Board of Health would have towards this special permit.
Personally, I didn't see anything or any reason to change the way the special permit has been handled in the past.
Is that a second?
I second it.
Can we have a vote on that?
Amanda agrees.
Cindy agrees.
Nancy?
I agree.
Rob?
It was my suggestion. I agree.
I just want to make sure I have it on file. Just go through that process. Thank you. That one. Okay. So now we're moving to Berkshire Concrete updates. Let me start. Okay. So we did receive a letter from the lawyer, Berkshire Concrete lawyer, on March 26th. And I do have some copies. I'm going to leave after this meeting, so if anybody wants to pick them up, they can. Okay. It says, you want me to read this? The whole thing, but it goes that, please be advised that the office represents Berkshire Concrete. This letter is being sent to acknowledge and respond to the town of Dalton's letter dated March 12th entitled Order to Abate Nuisance Conditions, Assessor Map 10516, to the order. To the end, please copy the undersigned and all future communications, which should be directed to me at Pittsfield, Columbia. And that's from Mr. Dennis Egan, which is with Cohen and Valencia and Cook, okay? While BCC does not agree with the activities set forth in the order that constitutes a nuisance, BCC has been working diligently and thoughtfully with Foresight Land Services to complete a comprehensive mitigation plan, addressing the issues set forth in the order, as well as the issues brought to BCC attention by the Town of Dalton Planning Board. The last remaining piece of the mitigation plan is a plan of land subject to partials, which includes the mitigation area, which we expect to be completed by early next week, the week of March 31st. Upon receipt of this plan, we will provide a copy of the mitigation plan to your office, and we'll request an informal meeting with the Dalton Planning Board to review the Foresight proposed recommendations regarding mitigation of the matters set forth in the order. While the order applies to the Assessor's Map 10516, BCC has the right, under its current special permit, to continue to excavate, process, and reclaim on the adjacent lots of Map 217 and 106, and Lot 3 and 55.1, collectively called Dalton Pit. However, because of the only issues set forth in this order, as well as complaints received from the planning board and other town boards, for the time being, BCC intends to cease extraction activities at the Dalton Pit and only process materials extracted from other locations at the Dalton Pit, thereby limiting additional disturbance to the BCC permitted area. Thank you for your attention to the matter, and of course, in the interim, should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. So that's one thing. That's I checked twice, maybe. I checked twice with Mr. Trevor before this letter came out, asking any updates. Did you receive anything that I received this letter? Tom also on last Friday, sent an email to Berkshire Concrete and it said any updates. I checked with Yanko even again today, and he stated that the planning board has not received the mitigation plan yet. So what they're confirming is that they are ceasing, desisting, they're only processing from other locations at the Dalton pit, thereby limiting additional disturbance to BCC community area. So it sounds, I just wanted to clarify that. Moving along, the DEP letter, which I received on March 28th. Says Ms. Sokowski from Department. This letter is to summarize the particular matter monitoring performed at Mass DEP during March 2025. Mass DEP has proposed to conduct an air monitoring activity in response to the residents' complaint regarding the Berkshire concrete facility at 40 Riddle Road in Dalton. This is done to assist the town in responding to neighborhood concerns. As stated previously, Mass DEP has determined that bulk sampling of material from the gravel bed at Berkshire concrete is not a suitable method to gather data about the size and volume of the airborne respirable particle. A bulk sample of any natural occurring sand is likely to contain varying amounts of crystalline or amorphous silicon, which is naturally occurring in the base material as well as most soil. Health-based concerns are related to the airborne respirable particles, which is why DEP conducted a PM of 2.5 monitoring. The PM 2.5 are fine inhalable particles with diameters that generally 2.5 microns or smaller. It goes into what they did as far as that. Do you want me to read the whole thing or just get to the meat of everything?
I would prefer you read the whole thing.
Okay. As proposed in the February 28th letter, Mass DEP staff sampled for a PM of 2.5 at 38 Deming Street Extension, 30 Florence Street, and 33 Florence Street, and the up end of Prospect Street, and Silver Lake Boulevard at Pittsfield at a Mass DEP monitoring station for background reference. So it's like their base. Sampling was conducted in the street adjacent to these properties and performed in both high and low wind conditions over the course of 3 days, March 3rd, March 12th, and March 21st. Levels measured at 33 Florence averaged around 2.3 during the sampling. On the same dates, background ranged between 2 and 5 at Silver Lake. The ambient standards for the PM of 2.5 is 35, I guess that's micrograms. Evaluated on a 24-hour basis. They are only 1-hour samples, but the standard is a good reference point for comparison. PM 2.5 was measured since it is respirable and will be captured as a respirable size silicon. Fuel combustion and other high energy activity, grinding, etc., can also create a PM of 2.5. For example, the readings taken at 38 Deming Street were a little higher than others, but the predominant factor at those locations appeared to be nearby residents burning wood, the heat, since smoke was observed coming from a local chimney. These results show that the levels of the PM 2.5 measurable in the neighborhoods were commensurate with the levels observed at the Mass DEP monitoring station background and another nearby local purple air monitor located in Dalton. Any sand, which is larger particles, would not be a PM 2.5 and not respirable. Based on these measurements and other observations in the neighborhood, this is not an air quality issue, but a nuisance dust concern from blowing sand. As stated in the previous letters, while the department may regulate certain aspects of processing, requiring an air pollution control permit for the on-site equipment, we do not regulate the extraction and recovery of sand and gravel material. Therefore, the town of Dalton retains primary regulatory authority over dust mitigation and nuisance conditions. As the permitting authority, the town can include mitigation measures in the special permit issued by the planning board, receiving input from the Board of Health and other town boards. Additionally, Board of Health are empowered to address nuisance conditions through Chapter 111, Section 31C, and Section 122. As related to you previously, Mass DEP considered this a local issue under direct authority of the town of Dalton. We have provided you with assistance toward your efforts and encouraged you to exercise the above-mentioned mechanism to address the nuisance condition. That's that. so going to the nuisance now.
Can I ask you, at our last meeting, we talked about reaching out to third-party vendors. Did you continue that process?
Yeah, I did.
Did that process include sharing that letter from Mass DEP with these other agencies?
Yes, I did.
Did you get feedback from them?
I got 2 feedbacks.
What were the 2 agencies?
One was Eagle, and it wasn't that they didn't do it officially because of the fact that we didn't pay them. You know, right.
They didn't provide a bid and
A
they
proposal
gave
or
a
anything like that.
DEP. They presented in that letter, correct?
Right. One was Warren Wilkins.
And that's Berkshire Environmental?
Yes, and just, you know, Myron,
George,
Rikorsky, actually was Ecogenesis, and they now merged with Berkshire Environmental as of April 1st. So this actually was more Wilkins. And Massey, she said a couple things. Massey has not completed any bulk sampling from the gravel bed because it did not represent the airborne dust. We agree with this. Massey conducted a 1-hour ambient air sampling for PM 2.5 at 5 locations, one of which was background at Silver Lake on 3 separate occasions. The data showed no elevated PM of 2.5 concentrations relative to the background site, and all the values were below. I think less than a tenth of a 24-hour national ambient air quality standard, NAAQS average. Mass DEP did not provide a timing.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You kind of, that first part is what the DEP letter said, correct? What you just read?
It's a summary of.
Of what the, well, a section of that DEP letter.
Right.
What was the comment then from Berkshire Environmental about that section?
Mass DEP did not provide a timing summary right there. It's true. I mean, it's basically, she's commenting on 2 different things. The red part right there,
Yeah.
that's her comment. Mass DEP did not provide a timing summary of the data in the report, by assuming the results of stated in the letter, the PM concentration that were measured in the subject area are not elevated relative to the background site at Silver Lake and are well below the NAAQS. It is not clear whether there was dust coming from the site at the time of the sampling. The sampling was conducted on 3 separate days and is representative of the ambient concentration at those times. The data shows no issue with a PM of 2.5.
Right. Did they comment on the DEP letter noting that fuel combustion and high energy activities can produce PM 2.5?
Yes, this is an experience also.
I'm sorry, it says this is our experience?
Yes, this is our experience also in our considerable experience monitoring for PM 2.5 in the Berkshires. We have observed low ambient levels and short-term spikes associated with passing vehicles of trucks, wood stoves, outdoor fires, etc.
Next, do they reference the Mass DEP section that states that while it may regulate certain aspects of processing, for example, requiring air pollution control permits for the on-site equipment, it does not regulate the extraction and recovery of sand and gravel material, and it further states that the town of Dalton retains a primary regulatory authority over dust mitigation and nuisance.
Yes.
What was their comment?
I do not 100% agree with this statement, but in general, we do agree that the town has a primary regulatory authority over nuisance conditions. If dust issues were associated with fugitive emissions from processing of equipment or material handling, this will fall under Mass DEP authority. We think that the most effective regulation is at the town level.
And that was their evaluation of the Mass DEP letter from the testing they did.
Correct.
What was the other company that you talked to?
His name was Ed Riegel from Lewis.
And in essence, did he tell you that he thought that they could provide a more detailed review, including additional days and wind conditions, to give a better evaluation of the air quality across a longer period of time?
Your answer to his question? Yes. He said, Agnes, I was referring to March 25th. There was wind index sample based on the wind rows they provided in the report. Mass didn't provide the windows for March 3rd. I believe on March 3rd, they actually stopped at one because they said it was on the highway. It was by the highway department, and they said that there was, I think, too much traffic. As I said, we decided to take 2 more samples of tin on similar days with low winds as existed on March 3rd. And from that, I took March 3rd and March 12th as the low windy days, and March 21st as the high windy days. I'm looking for weather conditions and reports on the site, and you just reference that. He said March 3rd was a very cold day. Again, never rose above freezing, and everything could have been frozen or under snow. These are items in the report that raise questions. Let's complete a more detailed review. Please know if you have any other questions. So those are the 2 things that I got.
And again, they haven't submitted a formal,
We haven't submitted, again, we have to submit a
multiple bids to,
scope of service.
Okay.
Depending on where we go from this. At this point, when we didn't have Master EP report, we didn't know how long it was going to take. We weren't getting that feedback. So what was our point to go and say, hey, at the last meeting, well, let somebody review this, but let's let them make recommendations, because we didn't know where Master EP was going or not. And actually, at that point, I was pushing the level, and then I finally got the.
did we prepare a scope of service request?
We did, but at this point.
Companies?
Yes, oh yeah, and I still have, I went through numerous companies. Thank you, everybody. Numerous companies to research. In fact, I have a folder like this of companies, and people saying no, 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 and people saying wait for Master EP. You don't know as you're going through this what the real scope is. Yeah, it's really, I don't have that crystal ball, Willie has that crystal ball. So we kept on pursuing it, and that's where we are right now.
Okay.
So that's where I need guidance from the Board of Health, reviewing all this information, reviewing Master EP's report, and direction. Somebody said, well, Master EP is a third consult. That is a consult. But, again, I need the Board of Health to review this information and tell me where to go from here. It's air quality testing. That's what I was pretty much getting from the experts. Discussion.
I think
It's we're gonna get third parties to review the dust mitigation plan.
There has been many discussions with Yonko on that. I mean, it has to be adopted. Can the Board of Health recommend that?
yes, I think we can, and I would strongly recommend that.
Right.
Yeah.
And just kind of circling back, I mean, I think we always discuss this issue dating back to January is, 1, is there a health component to it? And 2, is there a nuisance issue to it? I don't know that we have much more to go on the health front, given the DEP's air quality respirable particle evaluation. It's not like the particles that they found were close. I mean, they want to find 35 microns per milliliter, and their testing was 3 to 5 at multiple locations. So I don't know that we have anywhere to go on a health front. I don't know how anybody else feels, but when I read the letter, that's what stood out to me. That it doesn't foreclose the track on the nuisance issue,
Agreed.
but
And basically, I got an email from the Western Division saying that this is not a health issue, that this is a nuisance issue. And again, it's for the Board of Health to follow through on a nuisance issue, which will continue.
I just don't know if anybody else on the board feels like we have anywhere else to go on the health issue front. I know that there are a lot of people in the community who feel very strongly that it's a health issue, but without some verifiable facts, I don't know how we push that issue forward.
Can I just mention one more detail, please? Sure. Okay. And the one other detail was that I did reach out to, again, I keep on going to different departments. I went to Environmental Protection. They sent me back to DEP. I went to Mass Department of Public Health, and they actually had a Zoom meeting with me, and said, again, it goes back to, this is the email. This is from Darlene LaFonte, which is Mass DEP. And and epidemiologist. She's Assistant Director of the Division of Environmental Toxicology, Hazard Assessment and Prevention. Bureau of Climate and Environmental Control, Mass Department of Public Health. And I can't say how many emails that circle around. But this is an email following a conversation last week. As we discussed, Mass DEP is the leading state agency responsible for addressing outdoor air pollution complaints involving large commercial and industrial facilities. If individual residents have any questions about the health, they may contact the Mass DEP Division of Environmental Toxicology, Hazard Assessment and Prevention at 617-624-5757, extension 6, or speak with their own healthcare provider. And the 3 people that I know directly, I've sent that email information to. So just, if anybody has any concerns, please take that number down. Do you want me to repeat it? Yes.
I'm just thinking, on the website, should maybe. The board of health website.
Yes. You want me to put that number, Nancy?
Yes, that would be good, in case there's people down, the road that have concerns that are anything.
It was also just suggested that I put DEP's letter out there. And
Yeah, I think that would be okay.
so that was the other piece that I wanted to mention that I was circling around. So going back to where do we go from here? I just want to make sure that the board has a full discussion on this and in clear directions.
So did we have any other conversations with legal counsel about the enforcement of our cease and desist letter?
Yes, we did.
And what our next steps need to be regarding that? Number 1. Number 2, is there any response or report about a mitigation plan in any form from Berkshire Concrete? Either to the planning board or to us?
Not recent since that last letter that I received on March 26th, saying that they were going to have it in by the 31st to the planning board and us. We haven't received it yet. And then I said Friday, Thompson, I sent emails prior to this letter twice asking for updates of any updates, any change. And I think our nuisance letter, like I said, I want to go into that. Because the planning board is cease and desist of excavation. Ours is clear, saying that it's cease and desist of nuisance.
Well, it orders them to immediately implement measures to abate the nuisance condition by preventing dust and sand from leaving the property.
Exactly, and that's what a nuisance, and that's what it is. With that goes, I need the first thing is I need the Board of Health. You know what, I'm gonna come back to that, because we have to ratify that. We actually, as a board, have to vote on that and ratify it, but I also want to discuss other things as well with that. Because I have been in touch with the lawyer, and I did send everybody an email late, and it says, basically, dear Patricia, the Board of Health expects that you will submit a dust mitigation plan forthcoming, including immediate action plans and longer-term action plans to meet the ongoing dust impact from the property by such and such date. Do we want to give them a date that we want them to submit that by? Dust mitigation, a final date. Strict compliance with the mitigation plan will be necessary to avoid future fines and or court actions. Please be advised that the fines may be assessed in future violations are absorbed in pursuit of Mass General Law 111, Section 31C. I sent that out. Okay. Did you want to copy it? Sure. Yeah. That's one thing. The other thing is we have that, depending on what we say, there was the first one which says, there was another attachment that says pursuit general law 111, 31C, Berkshire Concrete is hereby fined. It could be anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 for creating a public nuisance on such and such state for sand and dust originating on the property owned by DCC in the town of Dalton, assesses map 10516 property. Please be advised that subsequent fines may be assessed up to 10,000 per violation. This is where he said the board expects that you will submit a dust mitigation plan forth. We already discussed that in that. I took that paragraph from that and put it in.
This is from the conversation with town council.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for your new attention for this matter. Right to request a public hearing before the town of Dalton Board of Health to appeal the fines within 14 days or receipt, and then we would go into the next available meeting. And for that to happen, I actually have to have, I have to have evidence. I have to have, videos of flumes coming over. I have to have, strong evidence. But that would come again, future events would come again in front of the Board of Health, and the Board of Health would determine the amount of the fine and how much.
What does the lawyer suggest about the letter from Berkshire Concrete's attorney talking about a mitigation plan?
Well, that's where we have to send that letter out, right? The other one where it says the Board of Health expects that you'll submit one.
All right.
And do we want to give it a deadline date? A property by such strict compliance with this mitigation will be necessary to avoid future violence.
What is that date? The 31st of March.
Well, they had that.
What do you mean that?
They wrote March 31st. That was from their lawyer. We didn't give them a strict deadline. That was them, and that was Cohen saying that they would submit it, but that they received the plan, will be provided a copy of the mitigation plan to your office. Right. They expected to complete it by next week. Upon receipt of a plan of land, which it sounded like they were waiting for something.
Am I allowed to make one comment? Which is, there was the preliminary document mitigation plan sent to the planning board. Is that different to the one you
That, my understanding, Richard, right?
Yes.
My understanding was that was a preliminary one.
Right. It was.
Right, yeah. And I think there's still some tweaking to be done on that. I don't know what it is, but we also asked for something that we need to know timeframes. I heard your voices. Susan, I heard it in your last meeting. It was very clear. We need timeframes and we need phases. So this is saying that, what do we need short term? What's your short term plan? What's your long term? I know that they're stopping from doing anything at 10516 right now. Lot 10516, they're not doing anything at 10516. There should be no confusion. Unless people want to create confusion. But this says, March 12th, that we said to cease and desist dust coming on the property. And dust coming on the property during the winds. There's nothing about, nothing in here about not doing mitigation. This doesn't say anything about mitigation. That's, what are you doing short term? What are you doing long term? What are the phases? What are the time frames? And that's what I've asked for. So I haven't received anything to say, are they not hearing us? This is where we're waiting for the dust mitigation plan. I would think that they realize that this piece is still missing more information, but I'm not going to be the person to say that. We have to actually see it. Okay. Go ahead. Perhaps one article.
Sure.
I'm just my name is Melissa Hassoun, and I did bring a letter to the town of Dalton before the planning board meeting in March, and I addressed it to the town of Dalton, to whom it may concern at the town of Dalton, but my letter was never read out loud. I thought that being that I was making a complaint, and it was signed as a homeowner, I live at 170 Raymond Drive, and no one ever addressed the letter. I don't think it was ever read, and I don't even know if anybody would let if you even received my letter. But I just do want to make a note. I've lived in my house for 16 years. I've never had sand. This year when the snow melted, My deck has sand, I've taken pictures of them. The pool covers has sand all over it. But this was all from probably over the last fall, when they might have been doing work and you didn't see it. But now, as the snow all melted, it's all there. And I just do want to make a record that, you know, this sand or where they're working has created and has traveled farther than I think anybody realizes. And they have another whole big piece of land. I think it's 106-15 that they've worked on. I think is that okay? But
Oh, wait, 10516 is the area that abuts the neighborhood. Right, that's the area that they're not ceasing it, doing anything right now.
No, it's not 5-6.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Okay.
I didn't know if there was 10515 like further down.
Okay.
But again, for them to do any, my understanding, and I think everybody, Mr. Griffin, you can vouch on this too, if they move into any special other areas, they have to come through, they have to come through the process of a special pit, and they have to come through the planning board and the butters and everybody voicing their concerns.
I do want, I'm probably going to send my letter because I just want to make note that even though my yard, if you look at it, it's like black with trees, there's, you know, but that sand is travel farther than I think anybody probably could guess that it would be traveling. But anyway, I just wanted to make a record of it and have it be noted.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ralph?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I just, a couple of comments. The DEP, I think, has been reasonably accommodating. They came to the neighborhood near my house, parked in my driveway actually, and set up their equipment there on, I want to say, 3 different occasions. And I questioned them. They were trying to monitor the weather enough so that they knew when it was going to be windy. They did not experience any wind conditions similar to what we see occasionally. This is not constant, but occasionally. And that happened just the other day when the winds were really high. And you could literally see it in the air coming over the top, off Prospect Street, the White House up on top of the hill. Agnes, you know where that is.
Yeah, I understand.
And the opening that was created by the contractor when he took down a lot of the pine trees. And you could literally see it coming from the pits up over the top. It was very windy conditions. So I don't believe it's a nuisance, but it also, we believe, is a health concern. My wife's doctor actually wrote a letter. She went to Brigham and Women's for health problems, lung cancer. And he was told about this condition. He wrote a letter to my wife about what would happen if these conditions continue in the neighborhood. So that's one of the things I think you mentioned earlier is that we have documentation concerning the results of that condition. So that's one of my concerns, obviously, and it is spreading. I mean, we talked, not that long ago, and it didn't appear to be a problem. It is a problem. And it's getting worse throughout other parts of our neighborhoods. So I understand the DEP's report. I can understand why they wrote what they wrote, because there were no wind conditions. Very, very few wind conditions. Little. I think create a good enough picture of what we see. Not every day, but more often than I think we want. The other thing that I'm concerned about is this letter came back in March from the attorneys. Was it? What have we done in response to that? What has the town done in response to that letter from the standpoint of pushing them to get a plan? getting a plan from them, identifying a firm for the town to review that. Is that happening? Is it going to happen? When is it going to happen?
I think that's the
I can't do things outside of a meeting. I can't just on my own or with Nancy or whatever.
I understand.
We have to wait till a meeting happens and then take the steps that we're legally allowed to take. So I understand that people come in here and say, hey, it's been going on for 3 years. You give me stuff that goes back to 1975. I've been doing this since October. You told me about it in January. We're in April. The biggest issue initially was, why can't we get this tested? And this woman worked tirelessly, and we got it tested. And if there's a letter from your wife's doctor that suggests that this is a health risk, present it to us.
We'll get you to.
Okay?
That's not bad.
Because I think it comes down to, on that front, whether it's a certain size of air particle that she's susceptible to, that these particles could be in the range of. It doesn't change the nuisance issue.
Nope.
But I get frustrated sometimes because I understand you've lived with it for a long time. But I feel like since you came here in January, we're in April, and I feel like a lot of progress has been made. And I don't feel like that's at least acknowledged enough. And we're trying to do the best that we can to take your concerns as serious as possible and do what we're permitted to do.
Well, I think honestly, well, Agnes issued a letter to basically cease and desist.
Yep.
That was great. Directing them to come back with a plan to mitigate the site.
And then they submitted a mitigation plan that was kind of vague and long-term to the planning board. From my perspective, what's the short-term mitigation plan? What's the immediacy right now?
Well, and I think that's what I think we would like to see, is a timeline.
Yes.
Clearly defining what the responsibilities are of the contractor as far as submitting a plan, a legitimate plan that the town can then review to determine whether or not it is sufficient enough to deal with the mitigation.
So from that standpoint, the letter that we had considered and we want to vote on today is giving them a time frame. I want them to have a deadline before the next meeting. I don't want to give it to them the next meeting. So I'm, with my calendar opening, suggesting, at the latest by April 25th, the long-term, short-term mitigation plan needs to be submitted so that in advance of the next meeting, we can review it. And that the letter says if you don't do this, that's where, according to the town council, the fines can come in. So I want to suggest a vote at whatever appropriate time on that draft letter to be sent for both a long-term and short-term mitigation plan regarding the nuisance abatement.
And I think the frustration on our part is it's been not days, but weeks since this whole thing started. From when you receive the letter from them after the cease and desist, there have been at least 2-3 weeks where there's been no activity on the contractor's part and no activity obviously on the town's part from the standpoint of following up and saying, whoa. And it might be because we really didn't give them a time.
We also, just so you know, I followed up twice with 2 emails asking for updates. And then the town manager sent an email on Friday also asking for an update.
But to take the kind of action you guys want, we have to have a meeting and the board has to vote. And we have a meeting right now once a month. That's what we have.
So has there ever been an instance where your board or boards have instituted an emergency meeting to deal with a problem that is a...
I honestly have no idea. My knowledge of this position, it's less than a year, and I learn every time we talk to town council. We're probably burning a hole through our budget setting up meetings with this guy, but a lot of it is learning what we can do and how we're supposed to do it. I don't think any of us, Nancy or Cindy or anyone, came into this like, I know exactly what I'm doing. So a lot of it is trying to figure that stuff out, but at the same time balancing the concerns of the people in this community that are real. I
hold on my comment. The only matter that all of these people here at this meeting tonight are concerned about is exactly what we're talking about. So the citizens of this community are very, very concerned about the actions that, I clearly understand your situation, but timelines for meetings should not dictate whether or not something should be done to mitigate a problem. This is a problem. And if it has to be done by tomorrow, let's get it done by tomorrow. That's from where I'm standing, from a citizen's perspective, from a taxpayer's perspective, from the perspective of a husband who deals with a woman who has health problems. I should go home now and tell her, honey, don't worry about it. We can wait another month because we have to wait till the next meeting. How do you think that goes over? How would it go over in your home? I don't think it would go over very well. All I'm saying is this has gone on too long. We've had, and you guys know this, we've had 100 people involved in this. We had 357 people write a petition, sign a petition to bring this thing forward to the town. It's like we're meeting for the first time ever talking.
I disagree with that.
From my perspective, I'm telling you, the frustration level is at that level. And I clearly understand why we're sitting where you were, having the limitations that you have, okay, based on a board's activities and responsibilities. I could understand why you respond the way you respond. But as a person who has to deal with this on a day-to-day basis, it's unacceptable. As a taxpayer, it's unacceptable. So, I'm not criticizing your comments at all based on what you understand as your responsibilities. I'm just telling you, nobody here, I think, accepts that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chu? Yeah, good evening, Dave. 140 Raven Drive. And you're absolutely correct. I think, Ryan Griffin is certainly more at the center, but not really to the point neighbors down on Tower Road that are got to be 2,000 feet, maybe a half a mile from the edge of the site. So I do appreciate the efforts. And one of the things, I want to have happen within all this process is a better process with the town and the different boards, the planning board, the permitting, your oversight as a board of health. So when something goes wrong, you have a plan in place to react. I think, and I will say this again, generational disregard by the parent company, Patrica Industries. The history speaks for itself. And to your point, you started in October, you heard of this in January. Completely agree in the last 3 months. I feel like things are moving in the right direction. I would ask, when you gave me those 3 dates of testing, I'm sure they did their best attempt to measure to get good readings. But one of the days, snow covered. One of the days, the wind was blowing from the east, away, the wrong direction completely. And the other day was west-northwest. And I'm guessing probably one of those three, maybe two of the three, maybe if it's blowing from the northwest, it's not really the group that it's affecting is down there where the dump is in that small little neighborhood near the Appalachian Trail. If it's flowing from the west, southwest, that's when you're really seeing it. And to everyone's point, you've said it, I really feel like whether it's this permit right now that's not even there, but I think going forward, if any type of permit in your oversight has to do with this kind of earth removal, there has to be some form of continual testing. Continual testing by the town. This continual testing, you may say, okay, it's a financial hardship to the town, but I think the person or group, Patrica Industries, Berkshire Concrete, applying for the permit over at the other development that we've been speaking a lot about over on the other side of town. But I just think the town says, look, we're going to continual testing and you're going to pay for it. You pick an outside consultant and then you're speaking real data. You're sitting in a meeting and say, wow, it was really windy the other day and wow, look at that, right? It just takes the mystery out of the air. And that's your complaint. The data speaks for itself. I'm very much in data. I also think there needs to be, how you, the different boards, yours included, the enforcement. So in the letter you write today, you know, certain deadlines you spoke to, but what is the fee structure? Like, what is he going to see and find, which is going to be hard, right? Evidence, photo evidence. You know, Patrick is going to argue something that seems kind of contrived, but so how do you enforce and say, okay, that happened, it's this cost? I think there needs to be some action there, because right now, they're processing material from Westfield, as far as I'm concerned, which I question. It's very loud, to your point, but it's always loud there. They're not excavating, but they're getting material from another city. Where's that material from? Again, part of the permit. Where's that material coming from? Where? Is it hazardous? That's just a question I raised. I think that, again, should be an added layer of future permitting and oversight. So continual testing, I think, has to be a plan for any contractor doing this kind of work within our community. And the contractor pays for it. I think one of the problems is you don't have a clear structure of what you can enforce. Here's the permit, this is what I want you to do, but then they don't do it. And I say generational disregard. I think there's been a generational disregard because there's been a lack of process and procedure in the final structure. So if anything comes out of this, one of the things I'm hoping for is that. Now, cleaning my pool this spring, to your point, I'm on 140 Reagan Drive. There are larger dust particles, right? We sweep them off. But I got to tell you, and I took pictures of it, there was such a fine layer, very fine dust that kind of hardened on the top of my pool. They were extremely small in size. So much, wash them off, still there. I mean, it was very small. So this is, again, my need and request to you is there needs to be some form of continual testing. It's there, it's real. How it's affecting my life as a resident? If there's a windy day, my wife doesn't want to open the windows. Okay, nor do I. If it's a windy day, there's certain neighborhoods we stay away from. We don't even walk in. We won't even walk in the woods anymore. It's affecting our lives. I also, to Ron's point, I think when there's something of this serious, and I guess whether it's serious, perceived serious, is serious, I think until we figure out what's actually happening, I think more frequent meetings would be useful. Now waiting, that puts some more pressure on Patrick Industries, Berkshire Concrete, to kind of get in line faster. This whole idea of, oh, we got another month, that's a long time. And, you know, I checked, they haven't done anything over there. And to Mr. Person's point, why aren't they watering it down when it's really dry? Like, take some simple abatement issues, spray it down when it's really dry for 3 days. Thankfully, it's been wet, but, you know, there's things they can do right now, and they're not doing it. So continual testing. The other question I was going to ask for you, and maybe you can answer is, what is the minimal distance, as Board of Health concern, that a mining operation like this can be to a neighborhood? When I was up there, the house that's closest to the cavity formed is approximately maybe 7 feet. It's very close. And I would ask that if you have the opportunity, go up off Prospect Street and just view the site, and it speaks for itself. And they haven't touched a thing since that, you know, the correspondence that we're receiving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Sue Person, 30 Florence Street. When we first started going through the process in the beginning, and yeah, it was January until February, and I know that is a short time between then and now, and that's a long time. But one of the things that we heard often was, oh, you know, it was a drought year. And it was a drought year. We'll give you that. But we can't wait for rain to mitigate the problem caused by man, which, I mean, clearly was just not a problem until we started mucking around the earth. So we've had a pretty wet week in the last 70 days. We've had a lot of rain and snow. And yet this morning, there's still that film on my car as soon as I turn my windshield wipers on. So waiting for it not to be a drought year isn't going to mitigate the problem. It's not going to abate the problem, even in the short term. So yeah, it'd be great if they would go in and water stuff down, but that's not going to cut it as far as keeping the dust down. Because when you water, you only get the outside, and then the wind blows and it dries all that up, and then it's blowing again. And that's just my perspective from, I kept thinking, oh, well, yeah, it's really yesterday. It's really windy. But everything's wet. There's snow. We're still getting this morning. And yet, the dust is still flying, even when we don't see it. And it accumulates, then we can see it. So, yeah, we can't wait for it not to be a drought year. Because that's not.
I was just wondering what recourse in the talking that you're doing about these different letters that can be sent, what recourse does the town have to immediately force them to stop the dust now? If they were given the order, but they have not done anything, and now we're talking about sending them another letter and saying, now you have this much time. Why do they keep getting more time? Like, this letter was given to them on March 12th, and why are we now going to write them a letter to give them more time? They have already broken their responsibilities. Why are they allowed legally to disregard something with no consequence? They've disregarded it since the 12th. There's been no consequence. We're talking about maybe a consequence coming, that we might send them a letter and then they'll have time. Why is that allowed to happen? Why weren't they given the consequences laid out to them on March 12th? Why weren't they told this is your timeline? They weren't away, they were told immediate. So I don't really know why we're talking about a timeline. Like you said, you didn't ask them for a mitigation plan, you just said stop. And like you had said, there's a short-term plan, there's a long-term plan, and I agree with you, they need to get in there now and stop. But why are they allowed to get away with this every single day? Still. And then we're going to talk about, let's think about sending them a letter. Why isn't something being enforced since March 12th?
And just take back to your point, so it's according to you in the, which we have to ratify tonight, right? Because we got this right before the last meeting, we have to ratify it tonight. According to you, and hereby order to immediately implement measures to abate nuisance conditions by preventing the same industrial leaving the property. So there's no confusion in this. There's no confusion in what the planning board is ordering, writing, and this. If people want to make confusion, they can make confusion. There's no confusion in this.
The hypocrisy is to get the permit that didn't exist, but they've had permits for years. They never, like the plan's already there. They should already have it. It already should have been done. So when they react, when you say do it, they should already know how to do it, get it done. So it speaks to the fact that they've never done it, because now they're trying to come up with a great plan to do it, which I appreciate. That's growth. But as a company doing this kind of work for 80 years, they should know how to stay away from this kind of problem and just get it done when it becomes a problem. So I would say enforce as hard as you can, make this uncomfortable. To me, honestly, I was at the dump the other day, the workers were out there, they seemed very comfortable. There's no stress. The people doing the most work around this issue is our neighborhood and the boards. I do believe there's work there. But the people that really need to do the work are doing the least. The least. They're doing the very least, and I think this town holds them accountable.
Is there anybody else? Yeah, Mr. Field.
And that's, can I just say something? Can this be the last person, because we have to move on?
I want everyone to have as much time as they want to talk.
Okay.
So you don't need.
So again, Richard Paul. One of the things that was mentioned in your earlier report is we're in mild drought. So does that mean we're going to see more drought this year? To everyone's point. So
Did we?
No, when he said, when we do the disease report, he's referring to the disease report. When I say the disease report right now, I always give what drought level we're in.
Right.
Yes. It's actually something of becoming more aware
right.
of what's around us, so that people are more mindful. what's happening. We're dealing with wildfires, we're dealing
Yeah.
with water shortages, so.
But we're not reporting that in response to the Berkshire Concrete.
No, this is part of the disease report, so he's just mentioning that in what I mentioned earlier. Right.
Because we've had a winter where we've had snow, ice, so nothing moves, even though it sounds like it does move. That's the first point. I'm going to pass this letter on to you and to the planning board, which was some comments on the primary plan that they gave to the planning board. Because in that plan, they mention the fact that they can cover up any open space, but leave some for excavation. The plan that goes before the planning board for the new permit has to be long-term, as we said. Short-term, they've already said, okay, we can cover the sand. So then, the suggestion would be to put the timelines in place, which, appreciate your doing. As far as the DP's report goes, the mine safety organisation looks after mines. And come April 8th, 2006, they have a new regulation going into place that looks specifically at silicon dust and how they have to make sure their workers aren't affected by it, and they have to do monitoring on that as well. My thought is, obviously, there's a lot of regulations and testing involved for that, and there's also a report that says in 2023, one of their workers was tested for quartz respiratory, and it was above the level that was acceptable for the mine safety organisation. I don't think at that point there's anything for mine safety, but I think it may be a good organisation. They're going to regulate the workers. What they're not doing is regulating the neighbourhoods. As you said, this is a nuisance at the moment, but it may be worth looking at that regulation to look at how we're testing the dust that's coming out of the sandpit. Because also they provided a report that said that 59% of the sample that they presented was quartzite, which is what makes silicon dust. So they're saying, oh, well, this mine's got 60% quartzite in it. That's what makes silicon dust. So it may be that the mine safety people have already in place the sampling and testing to check the dust at the level that needs to be done to see if it's a health condition. And that was really all, because as you pointed out, this is a nuisance. So there has to be a short-term solution, and then the planning board and permitting will look at a long-term solution. Because they said they're going to put some pine trees halfway around the top, but there's no suggestion that they're talking about exactly where the wind's coming from. And the average wind is southwesterly, and it changes month per month where it actually comes from, as we see. So I don't want to make any comments further from that.
The regulation change in 2026.
2026. It's actually now the coal mines, but for 2026, April 8th, it's meant to be for all other mines, which the Treacle is one of those mines.
And when you're saying that it's for the employees, right? My understanding is, and this is just recollecting, I mentioned it in a previous meeting, Treacle, Berkshire Concrete mentioned that they're going to have their insurance company come out and actually test for the employees. And I believe, they were going to be wearing monitors. So I know that they're looking at that as far as the employees go, but that would not be shared with us. I don't believe that would be shared with us.
No, but my point is, they're saying, hey, the workers are allowed to have problems with this, and we're going to put the detailed regulations in place.
Right.
So those detailed regulations for testing should apply to neighbourhoods as well. And there may be a interesting situation to look at.
Yeah.
That's because the PPE is just looking at general air monitoring. This is specific to mine
Sort of in mind.
and mines.
Okay.
Okay?
Very much. Thank you.
Make sure we'll-
Yeah, make sure everybody gets a copy of that. Thank you. That's April 8th of 2026. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else who wants to make any comments or speak? So what are the things left that we need to vote on and to move forward?
To vote on, first of all, would be the March 12th, 2025 notification to Patricia to ratify that.
So according to town council, we have to ratify.
Correct.
I would move to ratify that letter.
I will second the motion to ratify that.
Thank you.
So let's go from roll call, please, starting with Cindy,
I agree.
Amanda,
Agreed.
Nancy,
I agree.
and Rob.
I agree.
Okay, so that's ratified. Okay, and then the next thing would be the letter as far as notifying them to submit the dust mitigation, including immediate actions and long-term actions plans to remedy the ongoing dust impacts from the property. Strict compliance with this mitigation plan will be necessary to avoid future fines and court actions. Please be advised that fines may be assessed in future if future violations are observed in pursuit of General Law 111, Section 31C.
I'll just note that you have violations are absorbed.
I saw that. I read that.
So
So that's it. That's my typing.
I would suggest that the date that's left blank be April 25th. It's,
Anybody have any other comments or adjustments to that letter? Okay, can we have a second on that?
I second the motion.
Can we have a vote? Starting with Cindy,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Rob?
yes. How soon can that letter go up?
Tomorrow.
By the end of the week.
Tomorrow. I don't have it in the week, it's plans. I'm sorry. And then the other letter is how we fine. And I think that's, I'm sharing that with you now. But I want everybody to be aware of that. And that will be voted on if this doesn't happen and if we have other observed. Moving forward, once we ratify it today. Unless somebody has discussion. Tell me that you feel.
I think it's hard to, in a vacuum, assess what the fine will be. We give a range that the fine can be. And I think that's because it's like any sentencing phase of anything. What are the reasons? Has it been just complete disregard and you know, we deserve the maximum fine? Have there been efforts? What's the history? So I'm just loath to say that I'm going to vote and say that this is going to be the fine every time something happens.
That's why I'm just saying that that's out there right now. And I just want to let the community know it's out there too. That's where we're gonna go with it. I understand what you're saying. Does anybody else have any thoughts? Cindy, Amanda, Nancy?
I would agree with that. I like the idea of potentially doing a layered escalating fine depending on what the circumstances are.
Because there's a range, right, that you
Yeah.
can find between 1,000 and 5,000.
The first, and then I think after that,
After that, it's 5,000 to 10,000.
fines maybe sets up to 10,000 per violation. Right, good. Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that out there. I mean, I guess,
Need to vote on that?
sure, why don't we just do that, just to make sure that we're clear. Is there a second on that? Rob, I want to repeat what you said, because I think Gillian said.
I just think that any fine should be assessed based upon the violation itself. Like, what's the basis of the violation? And then there's a range that they can be fined. I don't want to lock into what the fine's going to be before I know what the violation is.
Agree. Okay.
I second the motion.
Good. Can we go through a roll call? Cindy?
Agreed.
Amanda?
Agreed.
Nancy?
Agreed.
And Rob?
Agreed.
Okay.
Mr. Griffin, did you want to make a comment again?
I guess. I'm just curious, when you establish a timeline and associated happening, who, is this board or is it the planning board that's going to be making those decisions? And deciding what level of penalty is going to be issued based on.
The letters that we're sending out, is my understanding, are underneath our authority as a Board of Health to order the mitigation of the nuisance. So the decisions for the punishment and the fines will come from the Board of Health.
So will that include if you send out a letter saying that you're going to experience, we're going to fine for having done nothing? Are you gonna dictate that as to an amount of time they need to remediate? Is there gonna be a timeline that this board gives to the contractor for remediation purposes?
It's my understanding that they have 14 days to appeal any fine that we issue against them. Is that?
Right, that's the fine that we issue. If,
Is that typical from a legal standpoint? Is that typical language, or does it have to be 14 days?
It's what the town council told us it needed to be.
Okay,
So for this area of law, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's what I wanted to, okay.
but I believe also the whole thing, I believe the fines also go to court too. I mean, right, they go to court. So the Board of Health may issue them, they could appeal them back to the Board of Health, but if the Board of Health stays the way it is, then it goes to court. And that's where I think it says, in there, something that, future fines and or court action.
So this exercise could, based on their reaction, continue to just drag out for a longer period, much longer period of time, potentially.
Well,
I'm just saying.
so we could issue a fine. They could appeal it. I think that the fine is held in abatement while it's under appeal. But yes, at some point the process has a finality, whether that's from the court or from our final judgment. I don't know. That I have to ask the town council. But that's the process anywhere. People get convicted of crimes on the criminal side, they appeal.
Yeah.
Why aren't you in jail? It's under appeal. So there is an appeal process that's part of this, according to the town council, that we have to include in the letter. How that would look, it doesn't mean the fine goes away. It's still there. It's just, when do they get to the end of their appeal process?
Okay. Look, my last question, I promise.
Sure.
So when do you anticipate initiating a letter directing them to do whatever? I mean, you did want another.
I said that's harm. I said I was going to.
So they're going to be notified again tomorrow.
I'm sending the letter out, the letter that we just discussed, where Rob and everybody voted on, that they have to have the ongoing just impact, the mitigation plan into us by April 25th. And that's going out tomorrow. That's when we discussed that, yes.
My motion
Yes.
So are they being fined tomorrow? Are you telling them that they're being fined for not following the order tomorrow?
No, we are not telling them, we are telling them that they need to get that dust mitigation. The Board of Health expects that we will submit a dust mitigation plan forthwith, including immediate action plan and long-term action plans to remedy the ongoing dust impact from the property by April 25th. Strict compliance with this mitigation plan will be necessary to avoid future fines and court actions. Again, this is what we're telling them. And then, please be advised, fines may be assessed if future violations are observed. Suit Mass General Law 111, Section 31C.
I guess I don't understand why, but they already got an order to stop.
Yes.
They didn't stop.
Right.
Why can't you find them right now? Since March 12th, you have disregarded the order, so here's your fine.
10,000.
Like, why is there no consequence?
Right.
They have just disregarded from March 12th, almost a full month. And now we're gonna send them another letter saying, now you have this, we keep kicking the can down the road. They already violated the order, why do we keep giving them? I mean, I feel like nobody wants to be the bad parent here. Like, they
This is what Al Beckman
already,
told us we had to do. This is the process. We send them the notice
Yeah, I think
to
it
abate
was-
the and mitigate the dust because it's a nuisance. They said we'll comply with the mitigation plan. They didn't provide it. We have to ratify the letter that we sent. We have to ask for the mitigation plan. When that fails, it's my understanding we can levy a fine. I can only do what the town council tells me to do. I can't do things on my own. I can't just do it because you guys want me to do it. That's what they've explained to us. I don't know.
my confusion is that we didn't ask, that the cease and desist order didn't ask them for a mitigation plan. It just said stop the dust. It
No,
didn't
we actually
ever address the
we had a
mitigation.
preliminary, we had, even at that meeting, we had a preliminary just mitigation. We just received.
Right, but we-
Right, at our last
Stop the
meeting,
dust.
at our last meeting, right before the meeting, literally right before the meeting, I can't even tell you what time, 12, 2 o'clock or something like that, right before the meeting, I'm seeing that this pops up. So we received it and we shared it. Right. Is it preliminary dust? Is there something that they're seeing or they're doing differently? You know, it wasn't, you know, again, that's where we were. So now we're right here. We don't have it. We thought we would have it. Again, we received the letter by the 31st. So now we need to notify them of a specific date to have it done by.
I guess the point is we didn't ask for mitigation plan. We didn't. We just said stop the dust, and they didn't stop the dust. So why is there a consequence? This whole mitigation plan is kind of a,
We did ask, we actually had meetings, we actually had meetings with them probably right before that they were submitting the dust mitigation plan. And they actually submitted one, which was a preliminary one, which, again, that was our understanding.
that's a plan, that's not action. They were told stop the,
Agreed.
to stop the dust.
Agreed?
So why is there a consequence to them not doing it? Why is there a time?
I think we're going through the process, I think we are going through the process with them. True. I mean, we're going through the process, we're working with them.
Already did.
But right now, at this point, this is where we are, and this is where we don't have a dust mitigation, a final dust mitigation plan. We don't see that there's, immediate, so we have to notify them.
So can I just say, between now and April 25th,
Yeah.
between now and then, it's going to get dry. It's supposed to be dry next week, the whole week. It's going to be dry. There's going to be issues. There's going to be pictures. There's going to be dust on the car. There's going to be dust. I'm just asking you.
That's when
We
you
send you the
notify me.
pictures.
You're gonna notify me, and I'm gonna go and check it out.
Right.
That's where we're gonna go, and
Want to
then,
fine it for that, or you gotta wait till they? When would evidence constitute a fine on your part? When could you get
so,
fined?
as far as evidence goes, we're gonna be, if we see that film coming over, and we're seeing that there's dust on you, then I'm taking that information, I'm doing that, investigation, and then I'm gonna be bringing it back to the next Board of Health. And then the board will be determining on that. There's gonna be a time lapse, it'll be a collection of information, at the time lapse going to the Board of Health, and the Board of Health determining on the fines.
Well-
And that's what we're saying in the
Right,
process.
and so two pronged, thank you.
Yeah.
But the second prong, extremely important, that is the order to fix, clean, spray, something
Yeah,
that has been completely disregarded for almost a month. That's the 12th. To me, that's enough for the Board of Health to say, you're not even complying with that for 28 days. Here's a fine for that, because that has to be taken care of yesterday. That has to be taken care of on a daily basis to keep dust from leaving. So there's two prongs. I think the prong where they've had 28 days to, you were ordering them, and honestly, they haven't done a thing. Put some teeth in it and say, tomorrow, here's 10,000 fine, because for the last 28 days, you've done nothing on a site to keep dust from migrating off the property. And then when you get more, I think it's just two-pronged. I agree, but there's one fund that I think you can find right now. They've got 28 days and there's been no compliance on their part to follow your order.
When we talked to town council, and he said, this is what they're telling you to do, was town council aware that you had already issued this order to stop the dust, and it hasn't been done? Is he aware that they already violated it?
We have to come up with evidence that this is happening. I have to have written documentation, I have to have investigations. So moving on, the Board of Health ratified tonight that order, right?
So you can't find him right now because
We cannot.
you didn't do any,
I have
you
to-
didn't do any follow-up, and not to be real negative, you didn't do any follow-up to the order that was issued to see if the dust had stopped.
No, disagree. I was there last night and I didn't see any dust coming over the mountain. I was up at Prospect.
Did you see any mitigations?
Excuse me?
Did you see any mitigations?
I can't go in their property right now. I mean, unless I have permission. I can't go like to the top of the mountain and go over. But
Any mitigations?
I'm not, again, I've asked several times. I haven't. And at this point, it was waiting for the lawyer as far as the town goes. And this is it. I was there last night. I looked last night. I was there at 6 o'clock last night and looking at the wind and up at the end of Prospect.
May I ask?
At the end of top of Prospect where that house is, where nobody's living.
Because there were people from the Berkshire Eagle at my house at 5:30.
It was after that. Just nobody was at your house. No cause for
The
action.
wind was blowing,
Yeah, it was
the
blowing.
sand was in the air,
The wind was
and we
blowing.
didn't see anything when you got there.
It's probably about 6 o'clock. I was up there and I was looking out at that. No, I did not see.
So that goes to my need. So it's not conjecture, or I thought I saw a cloud of
No, I
dust.
didn't see it.
Continual monitoring.
Yeah.
And as soon
And
as
that has to be
possible.
in the special permit.
So data. You can look at a month's worth of data and say, wow, over 26 out of the 30 days, 5,000 per, you owe the town $100,000. I mean, get continual testing so that you have the data to enforce your rules in your orders. Right now, they're sitting over there saying they can't enforce anything. They can't document anything. So literally their energy is processing. Their guys are processing dirt from Westfield. They're still getting all the stuff they need for their major projects coming up. Patricia Industries, Berkshire Concrete has not been hurt by any of this at all. They're continuing with if anything, they're paying for material to be taken from Westfield here, as far as I know. That's the only cost they have. Other than that, they're processing material, they're building concrete forms, they're doing millions and millions of dollars of projects. But for us as Reynolds and Dalton, who are spinning our wheels here, I think there's enough evidence right now for you to say, you have not been mitigating, taking care of dust from going for the last 28 days, find one, find two. Because we have to put the pressure on them. Right now, there's no pressure for them to make any changes.
There is that.
There's no pressure.
Can I say,
This is gonna be the last comment, guys. It's already
Yeah,
7
no.
o'clock. We still have a
yeah,
full
John,
agenda to get
I
through,
was
okay?
just going to say,
Understood.
two things. One is that letter. Does it get CC to the planning board and the select board? Because internally,
The letter that we're sending out.
yeah, so internally there's a communication, so everyone knows.
I know that Agnes tells us, the town council,
Yeah.
Alco, the planning board, she
Okay.
tells everybody everything that we do.
And then the second thing, I totally understand the frustration, but the order that went out didn't have timelines on it. By putting timelines on it with this letter, we're holding them accountable for timelines. And before that lawyer would go, well, told us to stop, he didn't tell us when. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. But I think it's a long process, but I think we're heading in the right direction by giving them a timeline, and then once that timeline comes up, then the fine goes in place.
Yeah, and I think also that, not only Board of Health, but the planning board would be doing the same thing. I think the special permit, I mean, well, I know it's not an active special permit, but as far as even asking the same thing. But as far as the Board of Health goes, this is the process that was going, moving forward with it. And again, if there's any time that you see that flume coming over, contact me. The police can come too. They can take pictures, the fire department can come. I'm sorry, I can't say that I'll always be available 24/7. But I do my best when I am there.
From an evidentiary standpoint, I think one of the best things you could do is prepare an affidavit, document the days that you see material coming over the ridge or on your property, and you can write it out in affidavit form. I'm so-and-so, I live at this address, on this date, I observed the following. On this date, I observed the following. Affidavits are a great evidentiary starting point to present when we want to do things, because even that DEP letter, if you remember, they're like, hey, we couldn't even tell where this stuff was coming from because there was, trucks driving down here, people burning wood. We couldn't tell where it was coming from. And that's always been something that we've talked about, is being able to establish, not just because I know it, but evidentiary-wise, it's coming from there. So when Agnes talks about seeing it come over the ridge, or parking her clean cars and seeing it dirty, that's evidence we can point to.
Actually, the lawyer said that you have to have like the flume, and you have to show the flume, the haze, you have to have like the date on it, on the pictures. So I need that, but I also need to be seeing it too. That's the best thing for me, to see this stuff, or see the police to see it.
Oh, it's so fine.
Right.
You can't see it all the time. You could literally feel it in your eyes, but you can't see it.
Nope. When you talk about washing it off your pool cup and it doesn't come off, that's something that can be in an affidavit.
We
All
have
right.
that already. Is that something that we should submit again to the town to show?
Okay, you gotta move.
Fine.
Again, in saying pictures of the flume coming over, you gotta show it coming from that area. That, you gotta show it coming from there. You gotta show it coming from the pit.
I'm all right with an affidavit that says I saw it coming from.
Yeah, I think he's.
I would love to have a signature of every crime being committed, but that's not possible. Like an affidavit, an eyewitness saying I saw this.
So,
Evidence from, wait, I got something here, I spoke with the lawyer, it says, evidence from neighbors, videos of dust flumes in air coming from BCC, date and timestamp. So that's.
Yes, that's ideal.
That's,
Absolutely.
but that's what actually what he
That's
asked.
not always possible.
But that's what he asked.
And I look at some of these videos sometimes and I can't tell if it's just the quality of the video or if that's actually sand or snow that's blowing around.
I had one of September of last year. It honestly looked like smoke. I took a picture of it. I can show you this picture. You know what you're gonna say? Smoke. No, I can't even see
I
it.
can't see it.
Your best bet is if I can come and see it, and if you can have, again, if you have the police or the fire department come and see it and actually write that down as well. Because again, I wish I could be available 24/7. We
So-
have to move.
to help us summarize these findings, what be, for instance, we've got a strong communication group. Someone complaining something, wow, this just happened. Do you want us to create some kind of a document and then provide it to you a week before your next meeting to say, these are the current things perceived, seen, witnessed by our neighborhoods? I can attach photos, films, and I'm just saying, what would be the timeliness of us to give that to you, or do you want it on the spot?
I want to stop it because I want to be there as well.
Okay?
You know what I mean?
Sure.
I may not be able, but if I'm not there, if it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you can also call the police and they can actually, document that as well. It's not going to stop 5 minutes later. The wind's still going to be blowing.
We'll do what we can to assist.
Yeah, and that's what we need. It's what we need. And hopefully, Patricia was on with, getting that fine. As far as the Board of Health goes, as far as TND's letter goes, as far as, we said that we wanted somebody to, last meeting we voted to have somebody review. We got TDPs, make recommendations for testing. I need the vote to close that circle and have a discussion about it.
I think we should close it, but I think that we should recommend that the planning board have a third-party review and do air quality monitoring as part of the mitigation plan too.
So air quality testing on an annual basis or an ongoing basis, what does that mean? Like,
I'm going just to do air quality monitoring when the plant is in operation.
Would that be part of the third-party review to make that recommendation?
Yeah, I think we should just put it in there so that we can get the air quality testing done.
So that we recommend to the planning board that air quality testing be a condition of the special permit for Berkshire Concrete.
Yes. And that they're part of review the dust mitigation plan of the special permit.
Do we leave it up to the planning board to decide how often the air quality testing should be done?
Or the third party.
Would you expect that testing to be done by the contractor or through the town, state, or by the contractor?
That's for the planning board to decide. I would assume this is a condition. They can suggest that it be paid by Berkshire Concrete if they want to get the special.
I think it's the last
19
next Wednesday.
I mean, on that front, I think we could make recommendations when it comes to the special permit. I don't think that there's anything untoward about suggesting that air quality testing be a condition of the special permit. But I just caution everybody, like, the big push in January was, why won't DEP do this? And we did it, and now it's like, they didn't do it on the right days. It wasn't windy enough. They should do it longer. Like, I don't know how to word it to suggest that they do air quality testing 365 days a year.
I think given the possibility, it's a food posting for sure, but given us the possibility of a health concern, I think someone needs to pay for the contractor, preferably, outside of just continual testing. You cannot predict Mother Nature. You cannot pick 3 days, once a month. It has to be continual to keep the contractor in line with the mitigation processes so that they're minimizing the chance that number is going to be higher. Wind is coming, gentlemen. Make sure you're spraying down the area. Right now, there's no reason to. Just leave the job site at 3 o'clock. So I'm really in favor, whatever conduits there are, continual testing. It's something that they're making lots of money from their operation that the contractor pays for. It's the same thing for any contractor in our town. Continual testing you're going to pay for. This could be a contractor run choice.
And to date, they basically have strip mined the site. So their approach should be, if it was handled correctly from the beginning, is identify a very specific site to mine, mine it, remediate. Mine it, remediate. That's what responsible contractors typically do. This has had no oversight whatsoever by the town. For whatever reason, I don't understand. But that's, every time you do ask, doesn't matter what board you go to, we didn't know what was going on. We didn't even know they were mining. They've been saying that for the last 3 months. So I guess the frustration level is such, I really admire the fact that you've gotten us to this point from the standpoint of your recommendations, your board's recommendations. We just have to now get it instituted and then police have to make sure that they're doing things that they are responsible. And if they're left without any of that oversight, they're going to do the same thing they've done before. Same thing.
And if my understanding is that's part of the third party review. Right, the third party review of the special permit, to make recommendations, to review the special permit. And then that's part of what my understanding is that's part of what they do. When they review the special permit, they make recommendations from the special permit, how often, what, and the enforcement, how many times they need to be seen or assessed. So that's also part of this, the third party review of the special permit. I mean, to include the quality monitoring testing being part of the special permit would be part of the third party review. Unless we want to say it right now. I think you're right. There's no time for it. So I think, to include quality test monitoring being part of the special permit, is that annual? Is that quarterly? Is that continue, you know, is that what the third party, as Cynthia, I remember what you said to me at one point, you know, we're not the specialists on this. You can't be the specialist on this. That's why you have somebody, that's why we recommend a third party review. And then that person is the specialist on the situation, sees the situation, and makes their recommendations.
Like an industrial hygienist who does this all the time and can say, here's the best practices, here's the typical monitoring. I think rather than us trying to invent something without having that level of expertise.
Yeah. That's basically what our discussion was. And that's the third party review. They're the industrial hygienist, or, you know, the engineer. Let the planning board determine who that's going to be. We make recommendations for that.
So the suggestion from Nancy's recommendation was that we recommend to the planning board that air quality testing be a condition of the special permit, that a third party be brought in to evaluate any mitigation plans and any air quality testing to include the method and the frequency.
That's outstanding. Yes.
I mean, again, we're making a recommendation.
Right.
I think that covers a lot of what we've talked about. I see a lot of nodding heads from the community that seem to agree. I can't see Mr. Pugh's head, but
To be clear, the third-party review is of the mitigation plan and the permit, the special permit?
The third party review would be the person that comes in and as a specialist to come in, review the special permit, make recommendations for that. And part of that would be, the recommendations would be air quality, or there may be other things. They're going to look at the dust mitigation plan. They're going to say, is this 40 feet this way, this high?
So I think that, like you said, the mitigation plan that BC has to provide
Correct.
goes into approving a special permit and a review of a special permit by the third party.
Right. Review of the dust mitigation part is part of the special permit, right?
I'm not asking that question.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And
And within that special permit, you have the dust mitigation plan, and there's many things that can be done in that dust mitigation plan. It can be BCC's plan to do the berm, it could be air quality testing, it could be the water testing, it could be many different things, screens, you know, where to put it. That's part of it, yes.
this is Disney.
Agnes,
Yes,
can I make a recommendation?
go ahead.
That we have two different contingencies for the third party review. One is to review the dust mitigation plan.
Yeah.
The second is recommendations for cadence and type of ongoing monitoring of air quality.
Does that clarify your question?
But a follow-up, is there public review of the mitigation plan and the special permit before?
I believe that's when they come out with that 10516, right? When they come out for that, and this is going to be the planning board.
Yeah.
You got to know the 19 to let them clarify. But my understanding is when they come in for the special permit for 10516, that dust mitigation plan will be in there. Right. Next year, when they come in for those other lots, that will be a discussion, right?
But
It's public hearing.
It's a public hearing.
the
So,
Board of Health has requested a mitigation plan. So
we've done that separately through the letter that we voted on.
yeah, and the dust mitigation plan is in the process. There's no question about it.
But once you get it, is it available to the public to review?
Yeah, it will be available. It depends on who gets it first, right? And the timing of the next meeting. It could go to the it can go to the board, planning board, right? And the next meeting, they will probably make it available. If the Board of Health comes to the next meeting, then we could make it available. Whoever gets it, I don't know about the select board, but usually they send it to the planning board and the Board of Health.
So you mean whoever has the meeting first.
Correct. But let's go back to Cindy's.
Is that it?
I just got back here.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you. Cindy, can you make recommendation for third-party review for the dust mitigation plan? And
We have two separate ones, and recommendations on type and cadence of ongoing monitoring of air quality.
Is it clear from that we're recommending air quality as a condition of the special permit? Not just let the third party decide whether they think it should happen, but we think it should happen.
We think it should, yeah, we think it should happen, and we want recommendations about, standard practice, best
Okay.
case.
I just wanted to
Best
clarify
practice.
that. That's our recommendation to the planning board.
Right, so we said recommendation, third-party review for one for dust mitigation plan, and then two for ongoing, air quality monitoring based on standard practice.
Or best practices,
On best practice.
Or best practices.
or best practice.
Okay, I'm gonna write that again. Give it back. Recommendation for third-party review, one for dust mitigation, and two, on the type and ongoing air quality monitoring based on standard practice or best practice. Correct?
I think we should, yes.
Okay. Can we have a second?
Seconds.
I'm sorry, was that Nancy or Amanda?
I think it might have both of those, but I can second the motion.
And who's that, please?
Nancy.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. All in favor, starting with Cindy?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Is that everything on that?
And then that other vote that we had for the last meeting, where we said that this is what we're doing, like, so the third practice, reviewing and testing and all that.
I would say based on the DEP letter, yes.
So that we have to rescind that last vote that we had last meeting, I believe. Where we said we were gonna have a third party, review, test, and.
I would say based on the
This is what-
DEP letter and based on the comments you received from the two different individuals you talked to and the recommendations we're going to make to the planning board regarding the special permit, that we should rescind the efforts to, I think it was to have our own testing done.
Right.
Individually on the health front.
Yes.
Okay.
We have a second?
I second the motion.
Yes. Thank you, Nancy. Cindy?
Agreed.
Amanda?
Agreed.
Nancy?
Agreed.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks. I think that covers it tonight.
And just for everyone's knowledge, the next meeting is May 9th.
All right.
It's a Friday.
Yeah. It's gone.
I think it's May 14th, right?
Hold a second. It's May 14th.
Okay. I just didn't want anybody who had the agenda to think of the May 9th. It's May 14th.
May 14th.
Thank you for that clarification.
The question is where it's gonna go. Is it speed?
Just suggested the level here.
The only problem with that
Try,
is
but it's,
it's,
Gotta
as you
get
saw
it on.
tonight, I got another meeting. And that other meeting, when it runs over, I don't have the time to break down that meeting and set up the meeting. So it's
My
really,
only concern is that we're gathering a little bit, my belief is a little bit of momentum to it. And there's going to be a lot of interest in where are we now?
we'll continue to have a meeting, as long as, but I'm letting everybody know that it's my
I'm just
best
saying.
to make it happen.
Okay, cool.
I don't have to
and I
try.
very much would like the meetings to continue in a moving forward manner. You know, we tend to a lot of times go back and talk about, I like moving forward. So I think that's the best way to conduct these meetings. We may not always get the answers that we want, but I'm just gonna tell you, I feel like I'm doing the best I can. I feel like Agnes is doing yeoman's work on this front. I probably received 25 emails from her while she was on vacation about tonight's meeting. So she doesn't let up on it. I just want you to know that, you know.
I literally got the DEP when I landed in Colorado.
She's emailing me.
At 7 o'clock at night on a Friday night. And
It's 9 o'clock here.
I can't even blend. I can't tell you the time change, but I literally, and I'm telling you, that most of those DEP's letters came in at 4:30 on a Friday. And they were communicated to my board in a very timely manner. And I have a supportive board. I can't tell you how much Rob and Nancy And Amanda and Cindy, you know, it is, but has dedicated extra time of their personal life. So when you say special meetings, I have lawyers, I have doctors volunteering their time for the community. But also I have patients at this time that are walking out of patients' rooms and getting on Zoom. So to consult, you know, I just want everybody to really, you know, we're very fortunate in this capital.
So to your point, your level of reaction is we're thankful for.
Yes.
No, we are.
What
I am
I'm
thankful. I am thankful. Everybody coming together,
Yes,
including everybody in the community,
yes.
because we've learned from each other and we move forward and we make change.
But
And thank you.
what we need with your action is the same level of reaction by the people who create the problem to begin. Our reaction has been very strong and coordinated. Their reaction has been very slow and one of inaction. And that's where the real frustration, I think, is live with them.
And you know, voice it. You're voicing it.
Oh,
Right, voicing it. But you can also voice it, you know,
This is only a small part.
right. But this is, you know, there's an address here, Berkshire Concrete, Retriever. Voice it, send them letters, let them know. You know, let them know how you feel. Because we have, and all I can say is this, like I say, situations happen. We work together. And all friends, even with that, everybody come together so we move forward. So it's a better tomorrow for everybody else. So thank you. Okay, and on that note, I do have to continue with this meeting. Okay.
Our room will be upstairs.
The next item is housing.
Yes.
So we'll start with 96 Anthony Road.
Thank you, because I got to find Mary to put my, so 96 Anthony Road is illegal. There has been movement on that house, and that's all I'm going to say right now. I'm hoping that it
What's that mean though? Because I'm hearing from people that they're letting the owners get out of the house, get the house flooded, get like nothing happening.
oh, it's happening now.
Okay.
And all those things are true. But clean out, when I came back from vacation, we did send an email to the lawyer, and actually there was an incident at the house. Thursday before I went on vacation, at 3 o'clock call, there was flooding. So the house is being cleaned out.
I think the Catamount.
It's doing it.
Okay.
Right, and that's all I really want to speak about, that they're moving it and it's going for auction. So moving along on that.
Do you think that it'll be
Not,
by the next meeting?
I can't speak on that, but I did speak with the lawyer about that, and he is reaching out to the probate officer and letting them know that we want to, you know, keep us updated as to when, you know, when this is all over.
Has anybody else on the board heard anything about 96 Anthony from the community?
No.
I have heard from the community, you know, what's going on there, and basically, what I just told you, is exactly what's happening. I'm sorry, Rob, sometimes I get all these papers, I've lost the.
Well, you know all I heard. The next one was 727, 729 Old Windsor Road.
I just emailed an update for the AG's, it is with the AG's office, and, they just sent out a letter today saying that, sorry, just give me a second. Second. I'm still here. The AG's office just sent out a letter today on that regarding, moving that along, notifying them that they have the property, and asking for, you know, mentioning that we're looking to move forward with that. So that is with the AG's office. They had move along on the next one.
326 Old Windsor Road, reinspection.
We have certain, we are working with that one. I have the files with
That's the
that.
hang up on it. It's just.
Because we had another complaint similar for the same tenant in another property, we were resolving the other property. The hang up is trying to get in touch with them. That's the hang up.
27 Mountainview Terrace, been condemned, referred to the AG.
That one I got acknowledgement on, again today, that they just sent out for letter today to the owners.
All right, now I know the board can recall that this property dominated a lot of our meetings in the fall of last
Yeah,
year.
absolutely.
Have there been continued community or residential complaints about?
No community residential, no action on the house. It's still talked. No action on the house. No contact from the owner. But we're not reaching out to them because it's with the attorney generals. The attorney generals reached out and I got a copy of the letter today.
Is that unusual, just for my own edification? Like, this was like, this homeowner came to one of the meetings, we had all this stuff going on, and it felt like it was so involved, and then.
We condemned the house. That's the time frame. And then we referred it to the AGO's office. And again, following up with them, I got a letter confirming that they're gonna be looking for, saying that it is a receivership, going for receivership, and the same thing with 727. And the same thing with 5 Field, it's with the AG's office. I followed through on that one.
Okay. And again, if anybody on the board wants to say anything, just let me know. I'm just going through the items here. 59 East Street, the demo was scheduled for May, but we extended it to August pending the asbestos removal date. Did we give a date on that?
We actually got an email from him today saying that it's going to be the end of April, beginning of May. He is working contract with the person and he actually sent me the proposal, but I did not get a date.
Okay.
And I think we said August for that. So that seems like it's moving along.
356 North Street, legal Pittsfield Housing Board.
We have a reinspection tomorrow. She has housing court set up a certain couple of days after April 5th, like after April 21st, certain things to be done. And then the end of May, beginning of June for the next. It's been a struggle to get the appointment, but I have an appointment on Thursday, tomorrow at 3 o'clock. If that doesn't happen, we'll continue in the process.
Does the homeowner met those dates from the housing board?
We're working on the first date right now.
Okay.
Okay, we're going through the process.
Item 7, we talked about 5 Field Street being with the AG.
Yep.
Item 8, 107 Curtis demo returned to May. Board of Health with the plan proposal. This was a couple. It was priced until the end.
That's
of
where we left it, where they're coming back at May.
They're going to come back in May with a plan.
Correct.
Have you heard anything else from them? They were
No.
expressing frustration that they weren't able to find anybody contracting wise to do the work.
We told them May, so we have some time.
Noise bylaw update. I know Nancy, you followed up with the town manager about this.
Jonas.
Yes, he is going to have the Board of Health just deal with the commercial waste and have the police deal with the residents' waste.
Okay, I think that's always been our point from when we first discussed updating those bylaws, is that we felt like we should be focusing more on commercial as opposed to residential.
Correct. He actually sent something and I sent it to everybody late today. So, I know that Nancy and I mentioned that I have to actually go through the noise bylaws and look at it a little closer, but I don't want to just start looking at it, what he actually sent. So I think that's going to be continued. I sent the email.
Today?
Yes, today. I mean, I got that, but I didn't get a chance to really match up the noise bylaw, because I think Nancy and I mentioned that there's some things in there that we think that maybe should go in.
Okay.
Yes.
And body on site runoff?
Yeah, that is on hold. On hold. With everything else going on right now. That is on hold.
Are there any other issues for us to discuss, guys?
May 14th is the next meeting.
May 14th is the next meeting, not the 9th like the agenda says. Can't believe I got screwed up like that.
Yeah, Agnes, how are you doing this?
All right, I would make a motion to adjourn the meeting. It's 7:33.
I second the motion. May I have a spending?
Yeah, I too. And Rob too.
Up to.
I thank everybody for their help today. I mean,